Welcome back, guys. Today we're doing a clean skin fade with a natural curly fringe worn forward on top. This is my full step-by-step breakdown on my client Pat, who's actually the guitarist from Chase Atlantic. So right off the bat, we're going to jump in and start saturating the hair down, making sure it's nice and watered down so it's easier for me to work my sections through and easier for me to pick up the hair as well. And we're jumping straight into the crown, and I'm going to be sectioning it exactly where the hair grows. Okay, so you can see from the recession back, we're separating the sides from the length on top. So the aim here is to work with the sides first, make sure we have the right shape for this haircut, and then we can continue to the top after. So my first technique, I'm going to be using a block graduation technique to create my first guideline. And this will continue from the recession all the way through to the back of the head. Now with this technique, it's all about elevation. How far you pull the hair away from where the hair lives and cut it will determine how long that area will be. So right now, I've got my knuckles right on the head. I want this area to be as tight as possible, so it's easier for me to make that connection when I go back with my clipper work after. You can see I'm dropping it slightly in the back just so we can maintain length around the crown, just so we can have more of a graduated shape. Repeating the same exact step on the right side. Section according to the crown, and then from the crown through to the recession, we're just separating the hair on top. Straight into the back now, same technique, dropping it down. Now I'm visually wanting to drop my section all the way down to the occipital bone. So I'm using that as a visual reference as I drop my sections down into the back. Now on this right side, because the crown grows down and then to the left, I'm wanting to leave it a little bit heavier, just so I don't take off too much hair. So when Pat styles it, when it's completely dry, it doesn't leave that area too flat. Okay, leaving areas like that a little bit heavier while the hair's wet, and then going back and seeing how it sits after when it's actually styled, how Pat's gonna style his hair. So right now I'm going to use diagonal sections through the back. Okay, so when I take my sections here, my knuckle is tight on the head and my fingers are pointed away. And then when I cut it, it'll be longer to shorter, creating graduation. And we're gonna do that from right to left. And then we're gonna go back from left to right and repeat that same exact process. So you can see exact same process coming from the left to right now. Only difference is my fingertips are touching the head because that'll be the shortest part of this area. And then my knuckles are pointed away from the head. So increasing length as we go up the head. And right now I'm just doing a little cross check, making sure everything's nice and tight, nice and even before we continue. Now for the fringe here, we've already discussed with Pat that Pat wants to take 5 weeks off the fringe. So I'm gonna pull that straight down and remove 5 weeks of length off the very, very front. From there, we have a guideline where we can use the fringe as a reference to dictate the rest of the haircut internally on top. So I've taken a finger length section from one side of his fringe to the other, or one corner of the hairline to the other side, and we're pulling that straight down. Then we're going to be using a profile guide. So what a profile guide does is, it's a finger length section from the back of the crown through to the front of the hairline. And I'm using the nose as a reference to really have a reference of what's the middle, okay? But what the profile guide does for me here, it gives me control of my shape from the front to the back. So you can see with Pat's hair, we're going to go with something more round towards the fringe. I've got my reference point at the front, and all I need to do is connect it on the internal length or in the internal length. Now our profile guide is completed. Our shape is decided from front to back. Now I'm going to be using horizontal sections, and I've got my profile guide in the middle, and all I need to do is make that connection. So this is finger length sections that we're taking here, and you can see my profile guide, the short pieces in the middle. That's my reference point, and we'll do this all the way to the front, making sure my sections are a max of a finger's width. If I take my sections too big, I'll be over directing too much hair away from where it lives. And yes, I will find a guideline every single time, but I will be over directing the hair and creating inconsistencies on the shape on the top there. And this applies to any kind of sectioning pattern that you do, making sure your sections aren't too big, because you'll be over directing too much hair. And especially when I do this shape on top, have to keep in mind that we rounded the shape towards the front. So that's where I'm going to be placing my elevation as I'm doing these horizontal sections. Going back through, quick cross check before we move on to the left side. That way we don't need to spend too much time after, fixing any mistakes that we could have created. So same exact steps on this left side as the right. So I've groomed the hair from left to right, as you can see there. So it's easy for me to take my sections as I work that same sectioning pattern from back to front. This time we've got our profile guide or our reference point on the right side of our fingers. So we just mash that up, nice and easy. To be connecting the top into that length on the sides. Now we are going to leave it disconnected towards the front. So before, when I cut the fringe, I've got a reference point at the front, and I'm going to be using that as the longest part of my fringe, and it's going to get shorter towards the back of the ear there. Okay, this style will be pushed forward. Okay, so everything behind the ear will be connected in longer towards the front. That way we can maintain length and strength for Pat to style his hair nice and curly in the fringe area. I think a common thing that I see with a lot of barbers is we're scared to use disconnection to our advantage. Okay, but if it's going to benefit our client, it's going to benefit the style, then by all means, whatever is going to perform best for the client. So you can see here, as we get towards the front of the fringe, my knuckles are pulled away from the head. It's going to preserve length. Now we're going to repeat the same exact steps on the other side, only this time around my fingertips are going to be pointed away from the head. I've got my reference point at the front and my knuckles are going to be closer to the head, so it's shorter towards the back. Again, making that connection behind the ear to the initial block graduation that we created at the start. Put a light sea salt spray through the top, and I'm going to start using my diffuser to dry this one out. And what the diffuser does here, you get the heat without the fan force. The fan force is what's going to straighten out the hair. So think of this like a fast process of air drying. This is going to help enhance the waves and the curls, because that's how we're going to style it on top. Now we're jumping straight into our clipper work. I've got my 1.5 guard on. This is going to be my base length, and I'm taking that right up the side of the head, right under where we created that block graduation. I'm just flicking up into it, just clearing out all the bulk, debulking the sides, so when I go through with my trimmer and create my skin line or my zero line, it's easier to work with and see where I'm going. But creating that first block graduation guide with your scissors is so crucial, because my clipper work will be parallel to that. So that first cut that you do, make sure you're cautious, make sure you're creating the correct shape, because it's going to dictate the rest of the haircut. Same exact step on the other side, and I'm making sure I push the fringe away. Make sure I don't cut that. We keep it nice and long and curly, and we're just working through, brushing down with the comb, even holding the hair in place with the comb so we can attack that. Anything to get this nice and clean so it's easy for me to work on. But especially with this hairstyle, where that block graduation is, I want that to be a little bit heavier at the top there, just so we have a nice little weight line, to give it more of an edgier look. I don't want to blend that too tight. I want that movement on the corner. I want to see that kind of contrast in the fade exaggerated at the top a little bit more. So you can see exact same shape through the back, a little bit of a drop, really following that block graduation we created at the start. And then when I go through now and use my trimmer to create that zero line, that's going to be parallel to that 1.5 guard that we did as well. So again, everything is in reference to something else. Okay, a little bit of a drop in the back, and as you can see here with my trimmer, I'm not dabbing that line in, I'm flicking out. And what that's going to do for me is it's going to make it easier for me to take out that zero line when I go through and progress with my fade. Especially with trimmers, these things are designed to, give a really, really crispy lineup. So if we're not cautious with our placement of our zero line and we're dabbing it in heavy-handedly, you could have a hard time getting out that bottom line. So I like to just use my trimmer like I would a clipper and flick out that line as I'm creating it. Lines, how do you make it symmetrical? How do you know it's symmetrical? What I like to do is I like to use references on the face, especially if you're matching left to right. We could go to even like the eyebrow on both sides. That's going to be the height of the fade at the front. We can use anything in reference. You can stand in front and you can look at it and see if it's even. Okay, you could use the back of your comb. My comb is a YS Park comb, so it has notches on it. So there's always different references to make sure it's nice and symmetrical and even. Don't move on until every guideline is symmetrical to the other. Jumping straight into our number one guard, okay, and we're taking that right up the head, just under where that 1.5 would have left off the head, okay. And I'm taking this nice and high because I want to exaggerate that weight line at the top there, okay, where that block graduation was created, okay. So you can see me, it's pretty much closed at the moment, and I'm just taking it down, taking the bulk down, making sure I'm flicking up into that bulk weight line that we're creating. And with this technique, I'm going to be using a descending fading technique to remove that bottom line out. Now I've got no guard and I've got the clipper open, and we're working that descending fade technique down. Okay, so think of it this way. So I've got my 1.5 at the top, 2/3 of the way down, that's where my number one is. 1/3 of the way down from that, that's where my 0.5 no guard will be. So lever open. Okay, really think about it visually, where those guards should be placed, and then work from there. The best way to think about fading is you can do the practical side, so a numeric system like I just explained then, but it's also the visual aspect of it as well. Thinking about it more than just guard lengths, thinking about it more of color, contrast. Having those two mastered is what's going to take your fades to the next level. A lot of people skip out on the color side of things. How does the fade visually look? How do you want it to look? Is it going to be something a little bit more spread out? Is it going to be something a little bit more compressed? Okay, this is all decided inside the consultation, but what technique you use to deliver that, you need to know. So right now I'm just using the corner of my blades, just taking out anything that's going to disrupt the fade. I'm working back through my guards, making sure everything's nice and clean. Any inconsistencies, we're taking it out. So I'm starting off with a longer guard. So we're back to our 1, leaving it open. And if that dark spot doesn't come out, then we close it. If it doesn't come out, then we go a little bit shorter, 0.5 open, 0.5 closed, no guard, whatever you need to do to take that dark spot out so it's nice and clean. They really start to come to life now. Okay, so again, we've done our practical side of the fade, that whole numeric system. We've used the descending fading technique, and now I'm really just going through and doing the visual part of the fade, taking out any little dark spot, anything that's going to make this fade not look clean. Because my goal is when Pat leaves here, I want anyone to look at that fade from anywhere. Okay, left side, right side, back, 360, it's going to look clean. That's my job. So we're going to be repeating the same exact step on this left side. So I've got my one guard closed and open, working at those little dark spots, making sure we're flicking out right at the top there where that 1.5 left. That way we can keep that transition to the top clean, but also leave that bulk weight line. See, same process, working back through my guards. So the practical side of the fade is done. Now we're attacking it visually, taking anything that doesn't look clean. Okay. You guys would have seen I faded in Pat's beard as we're going along as well. Okay. That's something discussed inside the consultation, whether they want the faded beard in at the top of the ear or even like a low beard fade, all discussed inside the consultation. You can see here that corner work, taking out any of the little hair follicles that it's going to be a little bit too dense. What tends to happen here, if you guys are new to fading, is think of it this way. If you do a number one buzz cut on somebody, there are going to be little dark spots all over the head, even though the hair is cut at an even length. And what that is it's head indents and it's hair follicles that bunch together, making it appear that that area is longer. So that's what's called dark spots. So what we can do with the dark spots, as I was just explaining, we can use the corner of our blades and attack those areas a little bit shorter, so visually it looks nice and clean and symmetrical, or even same contrast as the rest of the hair. Okay, which is a very, very popular technique when doing fades. Make sure that blend is nice and even. You have to use the corner of your blade and remove these dark spots out from the haircut. So that's what I mean when I say that we need to go back and attack it visually, remove those dark spots out. That way Pat's haircut looks clean at any angle. And this should be the same approach to every single skin fade that you guys do, because this is your walking advertisement right here. Okay, someone's going to run into Pat, or maybe Pat's friend, ask about his haircut because it's clean, it's fresh. Okay, and now you got Pat's friend coming to you. Okay, and then that's two walking billboards going around town showcasing your haircut. And that's how you guys can build a clientele nice and quick. Okay, making sure you're giving more value to the client. Okay, just through the haircut, make sure you're taking care of them. Okay, and it's all just going to come back in return. Fastest way to build a clientele. I've done it. I've taught people how to do it. Okay, it's a fail-safe system. that you don't need to use social media for. And then if you start posting on social media and advertising your haircuts, you know, we're just timesing it by then, okay? So same process in the back, but one big thing to think about, especially at the back of the head, it's very common. The hair in this area is a lot more dense, a lot more coarse, okay? So you might need to spread out your blend just a little bit more just so it matches into the fade on the sides, okay? And why this happens is the occipital bone right there, just under that weight line, okay? It kind of curves in. Very, very common. Everyone has one, okay? But we need to adjust our technique just a little bit so that blend looks nice and fluid. And it just flows in from the left, you know, through to the right, into the back. So a lot of the detail work will be spent in this area for me, making sure that's nice and clean. I find this is an area that gets neglected by a lot of barbers because clients can't see this area. But I know for me, I won't be able to sleep at night if my client doesn't have a haircut that I gave 100% on. Okay, so a lot of my detail work with fades will be in this area. Back to our trimmer, and we're just hitting that faint guideline that we created at the start with our trimmer line, okay? Make sure every single part of this fade is nice and crisp. But again, same technique, we're just using our corners, we're just flicking at that faint line, making sure that the transition is smooth as possible. Back with our electric shaver, just take it right down the skin, very, very low, just on the nape line, and just where the temple area is. Same exact technique with my clipper and my trimmer. I'm just flicking that one out so I don't create a guideline. And there's the finished look. Okay, clean skin fade on the sides with a natural curly fringe worn forward. Everything comes back to structure and keeping the shape balanced. Now I've got more tutorials, vlogs coming soon. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you.